Go.
Okay, so guys, we have this case with Nutria Animal Shelter, and the situation is you have a group of friends who were getting together, and they all had this thing in common that they all had pets, and they had this idea to start this nonprofit. Originally, the purpose and mission was for them to take in all animals that needed it and try to do their best to make sure these animals get a home. Now, where they split was you have about half the group that wanted to stay with that mission, and then, of course, with that, you would have to have a humane euthanasia process because some animals just won't get adopted. This is inevitable. The other half of the group wanted to cut that out and have a intense screening process so that you would only bring in animals that have a 100% chance of getting adopted. So what are some of your initial thoughts?
Well, for me, at least, my first thought right away was, what's an 100% chance of being adopted? How could someone guarantee that an animal would be adopted? Adoption is a very personal thing, and a very owner to their, I guess, animal type of relation. It's very, I forget the word, but it's a nice relationship that should not really be messed with.
Yeah.
And it's hard to say that a dog or a cat could get 100% adopted. You would be the ones to determine that, and that kind of really threw me off on that.
My first reaction was the fact that they flip-flopped. They originally had the idea of, well, they started off with the belief that all animals should be adopted, and now they're kind of, going back on it. I don't know if that's especially for like budgetary reasons, for the fact that maybe the cost of having a euthanization program is too high, or they're just not able to budget in having all these animals.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, if you read this mission statement, we provide a safe haven for all animals. I mean, I think if we choose option 2, it doesn't follow our mission statement. This is our identity, so we must follow it, or we have to change it if we're going to do option 2.
I completely agree with Matt. I think the mission statement could potentially dissuade potential adoption owners from coming, because if they see you as neglecting potential animals, I know in some cases people actually are like drawn to animals that have been abused. They want to give them a good home. They want to give them, what they didn't have before, and like give them that better life. So I think one of the things we have to think about is, the potential pet owners, the animals themselves. This group of women want to start this to bring these animals in. What's to say that once they start this, if they start throwing animals out, that's lack of credibility for them.
Yeah.
And then people are going to be less likely to come see them for adoptions.
So less credibility with option 2. One thing that the problem that I have with option 2 as well is that I think it creates a kind of false sense of social responsibility, whereas you say, oh, we're a non-kill agency, right? So that it's a nice little thing to have, but I think it's doing the opposite. It's not helping the greater good because, like you said, you're cutting off a big portion of animals that could even come to the agency in the first place. So you're not even giving them a chance. And also, like Adam said, who makes that call? Is there a committee? Like who sits around and says, okay, you're not adoption material? I have some problems with that. So.
I wrote the same thing actually for the no-kill shelter. I said that I feel like that only increases the perception of the organization of the nonprofit being referred to, but another way of saying that is my standards are higher, so it's just higher standards to get in, even though they don't kill anyone when they get in, but it's not really social responsibility. I think it's almost like a cop-out because there's something that needs to be done with these dogs and cats that may have been abused or maybe nobody wants, and it just to say, okay, well, we don't deal with that is kind of, I think, a cop-out in a sense.
Exactly what Dominic and Adam said about the whole no-kill. I don't know if there's a negative stigmata attached with being, I guess, a shelter that puts down animals, but I also could see it from the standpoint of that if you are a no-kill shelter, I guess more people are gonna be willing to give their pets away to you because they know they're not put down. So I mean that could be a big reasoning in the fact that I don't know if you look at this, maybe if you could find the statistics for adoption rates or how many people people go to euthanization shelters or whatnot, but I feel like that could be a big factor in it.
Yeah. Real quick, are we going to assume that this shelter is having pets donated to them and trying to re-adopt them out, or are we assuming they're going to go out kind of like an SPCA kind of thing?
It's both.
Okay.
But so I was trying to put myself on the other side of the situation and think maybe because I think we're all in kind of favor of the first option of everyone rather than just the ones that we think are going to get adopted. But I was trying to put myself in the other side of the situation, and the main thing I think someone even said this was maybe the economics behind it all. We want to consider that, and for me, I actually considered that with option one of accepting everyone rather than just accepting the ones that will get adopted, we can increase the chances of obtaining funds through the wider breadth of our mission, and I think we could also increase stakeholders that are involved because they care about the how the animals are treated at the end. And I think through our wider mission and accepting wider people, we could get more stakeholders involved in the process as well.
Yeah, with and like you were saying, Adam, if we can expand and get more funding, then we can employ vets to help with the euthanasia program. We can bring them in to help the abused animals to give them the better chance of being adopted. That's what I had for economics as well.
I wanted to touch on. I felt it was weird that they were having this argument via email. Yeah. Everyone else thought that was weird. When you're talking about something that has such a carries so much weight, I feel like they should be sitting down and meeting with it.
I also feel like just with any mission statement, someone should be able to read it and understand it 100% without any interpretation to it, just like any type of mission statement. And if your mission statement says something like through an initial screening process have a 100% chance of being adopted, I'm going to read that and think that an animal, that animal probably has a chance of getting adopted. And then Nick's going to read that and think, well, maybe that animal won't get adopted. So each person can really interpret that 100% so differently, and no one really has a clear, concise idea of what the mission is.
It's not an objective.
Yeah.
Figure.
So maybe for them, if we could sit down and have them revisit why they're doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of times everyone does, we kind of trick ourselves out of things, overanalyze. And obviously there's a lot of things to consider here, but I think for them to sit down and, in person, not via email, and talk about why are we doing this in the first place, and see if they can come to a conclusion. Obviously they already did with their purpose initially, but if they can come to a conclusion again after all this happened of why they want to open this, what is the main reason you want this shelter to be, and see how option 2 and option 1 actually lines up.
Absolutely. I think that they need to sit down and really make a different decision and think about it as a long-term plan. And one of the things I put down was use a path goal theory. And it's one thing I learned in the decision-making class is you just list your resources, right? And all your resources, whether it be staff, whether it be any emails, whether that. You put your objectives down and you move linear, and you have a short-term goal, you have an intermediate goal, and you have a long-term goal. So if you label those and you put all those objectives that get to those goals, you have a better understanding of who you are as an organization, and you know what your goals are. So if your long-term goals say one thing, that could be one of your mission statements. That could provide you a better vision, rather seeing it how we go about to get to our goals and what objectives get us there.
So where do we go from here?
I think we should probably go back to them and try to make our recommendation of option 1, listing the reasons that we think option 1, the pros for option 1, as well as the cons for option 2. I also think it's fair to address some of the concerns in our proposal as well. I think we all said, coming from the other perspective, what would their argument be, like the economics, and we kind of really talked through that, putting that in and saying how even though they think this, address it right away and provide our defense to it in the proposal as well.
Yeah.
So
I think they also need board of directors. They also need to appoint somebody who's going to be able to lead these meetings as well. So after we step out, if they have another crisis like this, they can have someone else who, they're educated on it, they know what to do, and they can lead the same meeting.
And Nick, like you were saying earlier, I think also we should talk to them about their communication strategies, because clearly, email, you can communicate words, but there's time delays. You can't express emotion and feeling, particularly if you're passionate about something. So I think figuring out a way to get these people together would also be something that we should look into.
Maybe every month or something.
Yeah, because this isn't the first big decision. I mean, this may be the first big decision they're going to make, but as a nonprofit, you're going to have to keep making big decisions, and breakdowns in communication are not going to help these people.
So keep that communication up in a formal way. Just have some type of meeting or something that's scheduled.
And I also think they have meeting. It says that they have meetings at one of their wine and cheese evenings.
Right.
That's where they came to the agreement on the first policy. But I think we should just recommend also a firm policy of no decision or policy changes should be made not in person. If they get together, even if it's only once every 3 or 4 months, you should say you can talk about emails, but they shouldn't be deciding on any kind of policy not in person if they met 3 weeks ago.
Something else I meant to bring up real quick. I like the fact that they're meeting every Friday, but personally, I don't think alcohol is the best, I guess, social tool to be using. I mean, personally, I think it'll disrupt decisions after a certain period, and people may think it's more of a fun social type thing and not take it as seriously.
I was going to say the exact same thing. It's more of like a social. It sounds like more of a social environment instead of, if they're really going to start this shelter, then they have to actually get down to brass tacks, not just sit around drinking wine.
Yeah, I mean, these emails they could take a while. If we sit down and we talk, we know how long the decision will be made right then and there. We don't have to wait because there's no timetable of when this thing is going to start. We have to get moving right away. And so if we come together and plan our stuff out, we have a better idea of when we can start.
So just to summarize it all, we want to go and recommend to them why we want to recommend the solution we have, and then also recommend some future recommendations on how to avoid this type of situation in the future, such as the emails and avoiding them and meeting in person, things like that.
Sounds good. And I think it's good to point out this is something that probably would take some time. Because obviously, no, not obviously, I shouldn't say that, but I'm sure the people that fall into group option 2 can understand the perspective of option 1. They obviously feel stronger about it for some reason. So, like you were talking about, fostering their communication and making sure that that's happening. The path goal thing and saying what is your goal and what you believe in strongly, which falls under option 1. Is that on the path that goes to your goal, or is it not? And if it isn't, then let's chuck it.
And since I think we should also be recommended, this is the initial stage. This is the first time they're forming their vision and philosophy. If they do it wrong, that's it. It's okay if this takes time. If this takes a long time to use your path goal theory or try to talk to your other stakeholders and research other things, but that's how it should take, because if you open an organization with not a good philosophy, you can't just change it.
Yeah, right. And then another theory that I thought of too, if we just put a timetable when we're going to start, let's say early next fall, right? Okay, so we start, it's called the critical path theory. So we start the project, let's just say that's A, okay? We just start the project at A, and our next objective is B, whatever that might be. Identify board of directories, okay? So we go to B, and then these are our objectives. A and B are our objectives. So after we identify, we can move to C, which is another objective of ours. And you might have objectives that you can do at the same time. And to really figure out how long your time will take, it's just your optimistic time versus your pessimistic time times 4. So you have a number. So this could take 5 days, right? And then we go here and here, and that's D and F. This could take 3 days. This could take, according to the formula, this could take 7 days. So we know our critical path by going at the furthest time. So this is 1, we would go down to 7, and you would have a number of how many weeks or how many days it would take. And you could stay on track because all your objectives are known, and you're moving toward timetable, and you know what it's like.
So establishing accountability.
Right, exactly. It won't feel like they're rushing the process.
Right.
And it also won't make them feel like they're not really doing anything over these long breaks that they have. We have intermediate breaks in between, saying,
absolutely,
3 weeks after our first meeting, we'll have B done or something like that.
Exactly. So, and the critical path is the longest time, and you can take some slack off certain times in the critical path, but we know the number. And knowing the number is very good in planning an organization.
All right.
You're done?
I feel like we are. Okay. I don't know. This is my first time in this. I don't know if there's going to be a more formal